I think I use art like many artists, just to figure out how I feel about things and just my position about what I'm experiencing. And I have many series that delve with different parts of my life. And when my mom started to show signs of dementia, I felt a great loss. And I didn't want to just stay in that loss. I wanted to try and figure out a different way of understanding it and dealing with it. And painting my mom and my mom's objects was a way in for me to sort of reframe how I was thinking, and where I couldn't really put into words, I wanted to put it into images. The one that's behind me, that painting was done chronologically. She had just had a birthday and we had taken her out for supper, and then she fell and she was hospitalized. So this is a painting where she's back home, and she was very tired and she was wearing these pajamas, and I think the painting shows, well, you can't see her hair, but I've done her hair, so she's nicely coiffed. She's wearing a watch. For me, it's about just, the temporal quality that we have together. The pattern of, the cloth for me just evokes, just all her experiences, and me trying to figure out all the ins and outs of that cloth, but also trying to really reach and understand my mother, who sort of can't explain it verbally. And then, of course, the mirror is there, and that's like a reflection of I guess, what we're living now. It does have greenery, so I think for me, there's hope. I think we all want to hold on so tightly to objects that were meaningful in our families' lives, because that's how we hold on to all the stories, everything, our histories. And, we almost think, oh, if we can pass that down, a bit of ourselves will be passed down to the next generation. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's my hope. And also that one extra layer of painting it, for me, gives me that extra hope that, okay, so it's not only the objects, but it's going to be my paintings too that will live on to somehow carry that through. She enjoys when I brush her hair, and I, do her hair, and she just closes her eyes, and it gives me such a pleasure to see that she's happy and she feels love. And it's so it's gone from a relationship of maybe child expectations of what a parent is, to maybe more of almost a human to human support and love. And and tenderness, I have to say. I just was finishing brushing my mother's hair, and I put the brush down on a counter, and a lot of times the impetus for doing the paintings come when I just sort of turn away, let's say, from my mother, and I glance over and, oh, there's this brush full of my mother's beautiful, delicate white hair that the brush basically took from her head. So it's no longer part of her, it's part of this brush. And that's also still very transient anyway. I just found myself really accepting where she's at in the moment. And there came a point where I had to take on helping her shower, which was very difficult for me. And at that point, when I first started doing that, I think it was very hard for her as well. And she would sort of smile and she would say, oh, I remember when I used to wash you. And it used to just give me a little bit of like a pain in my heart that it's come to this point. But I feel as this has progressed, I see that now she really enjoys that very intimate experience of me helping her. I help her shower very respectfully, and she loves when I wash her hair. And because our relationship has many less words between us now, our relationship through touch and tender touch and caring has become very important. When one has to have help with a shower, it could be something that makes you feel not good about yourself. But my mother just loves it so much. And when I was putting this purple shampoo in her head, and I was just like massaging her, and I tried to remember how when you go to the hairdresser and they massage your head, how that feels. So I give her this great massage, and then I was piling this shampoo, purple lathered hair on top of her, and it looked like a crown. And I thought, that's it. I said, Mommy, you look so beautiful. I said, do you mind if I take a picture of just your head with this crown of shampoo? And she just thought it was hilarious. And she said, yes. And that's the painting that came from it. It was very strange because when I first started the series, it was so personal to me. And I thought, wow, should I put it on social media? Should I show it to people? Is it just a personal kind of exploration of my feelings about my mother? And I decided, I think one of the first ones was maybe a ball of wool, or maybe it was the hairbrush, I can't remember. And immediately I got so many messages. I'm going through the same thing. Oh, this really touched me. I didn't know how to express it, but I feel the emotion in what you're portraying. And it kind of floored me because this was such a personal thing. And I was kind of a little bit shy about it. And I wasn't sure how my family would react to me showing my mother in such a vulnerable state. And in fact, I did get some backlash from my family members. And some of them, I'm not so sure how they feel now. But many of them have really come around and really thought, oh, yes, this is a way of paying tribute to my mother, a way of paying tribute to all of us. My mother was an amazing baker. So I have a painting of one of her, a slice of apple cake. And my mother was very prolific. So she would every week she would make so many loaves of this apple cake. And she would give it to all to the 3 children. And at one point I had a freezer full of these apple cake loaves, and I was giving them away. I didn't know what to do with them. I love them, but there were just so many of them. And when I started painting, I thought I have to paint a slice of this apple cake. I posted a picture of it, and I got so many people saying how they remember their significant mothers or grandmothers' recipes, and how they wish they could taste that again. And it conjured up all those feelings that that food gives us. Food is just so filled with love. I have I think about 3 or 4 paintings about plants. First of all, my mother was not a gardener, did not like gardens, but she could grow an African violet like nobody else. And I remember just like being in awe, like they would bloom. These were just your very common grocery store African violets, and they would just keep blooming for my mother. And I remember a sad moment when I went in and into her house, and there was this African violet plant that was just dying, and she had forgot to water it. So my brothers and I, for Mother's Day, bought her another one. And one of the paintings that I did is this. I mean, now we take care of all her plants now because she really can't do it herself. But I painted that one with this. I just looked at it. As I said, I would just turn and I looked, and it had this very monstrous kind of shadow underneath it. And I thought, oh, wow, if that's not ominous, I don't know what is. And then she also my father loved orchids. And after he passed away, she inherited about 5 or 6 orchid plants. And those 2, she just forgot to water them. So I captured one that really looked like, to me, just like an old person's gnarled kind of hands, because my mother also has a arthritis and another thing called Dupuytren, so her hands are a little bit crooked. So to me, that just sort of was like painting my mother without painting my mother. I was visiting my mother, and as I said, she doesn't knit anymore, but I just said, Mommy, do you think you could help me with this? I don't know how to hold the knitting needles, because as you can see, and I held the knitting needles, I don't know what I'm doing. And she sort of laughed and she said, no, 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 not like that. And she, I put the knitting needles in her hands, and lo and behold, she just automatically just held them perfectly. And I think it's such a deep memory for her. So for me, just capturing those images of knitting, it's obvious, the obvious metaphor is there also with the wool and making knots and just the stories and that, but just that the meaning that it had for my mother and also for us. I had a lot of people respond to my Werther's candies that I painted. Many people have had that experience of just our elder family members either having Werther's or some other candies in their purses or in their pockets and handing them out. And my dad always had Werther's in this mid-century bowl, and we would love them, of course. And after he passed, my mother carried on the tradition, and she would have these Werther candies on her coffee table. Well, after I had done this painting, I wanted to really focus on my mother's face. First of all, my mother never thought she was beautiful, and I always thought she was very beautiful. My mother was a person that would just diminish almost every story, every pain, everything like that. And I just wanted to just show myself and her how beautiful she was. So I painted that, just a very close-up of my mother's face. And then I felt as if it just was not finished, of course, without adding a painting of a self-portrait, because this was really what this series was. It was really my mother and myself. And we were just looking at each other. We were face to face. We are bookends. Um, I found myself through looking at my mother, and I hope my mother sees herself looking back at me. And so it's an important way to sort of end the series. And yeah.